In this lesson and the next lesson, we're going to learn how to parse HTML. In other words, we're going to learn how to take a web page and strip out tags and return only some essence of the page. In this first lesson, we're going to change an HTML page into plain text, and in the second lesson, we're going to see how to return only the links from a web page. So let's get started with converting a web page to plain text. We're going to create a new file. We'll call it plaintext.py. Let's get it into the screen here. There we go. First thing we need to do is import a few libraries. The library we're going to use to do HTML parsing is HTML_lib. It contains a class called HTML parser, which we're going to use. We also need the URL_lib library to open the URL. And we also need a library we haven't used before, a formatter, because the HTML parser class requires that library. I'll explain how to use it when we need it. We also need the sys library so that we can do some output to the standard output object. First thing we need to do is open a website using the URL_lib library. We'll use my website again, profmcmillan.com. So that opens the website. Then we want to read the contents into a variable. So we'll write data equals website.read to read the website's contents into data. We're through with the website object, so we'll close it. Next step is we have to create a formatter. If we're going to display the text after we've converted it, we need a way to display it. So this is what the formatter library does. It allows us to create a formatter of some type. In this case, we want to create what's called a dumb writer, which simply displays the text to an output object of some type. In this case, we want to go to standard output. And it does it by printing each line in a 72 character wide format. It's a very simple way to display text on the screen, for example. So once we've done that, then we're ready to actually perform the parsing. So we're going to set that up using the HTML_lib library. And here we're going to call the HTML parser class with our format. That puts everything in place. The next step is to actually parse the data. So we use the method feed, which takes our HTML and we'll parse it out into standard plain text. And then we're done, so we hit close. So let's go over the steps one more time. We import HTML_lib, URL_lib, formatter, and sys. We open the web page. We read the contents into a variable, data, close our website reference, create a formatter that we need to be able to display the text, and actually the HTML parser class requires a format of some type. You're going to see in the next lesson where all we want to do is display links. We can use another type of formatter called null writer. We will see that in the next lesson. So after we've created our format, then we set the parser up by calling the HTML parser class or method, it's actually a class, with our format. Then we feed the original HTML to our ptext variable. Then we're finished and we can close the ptext variable out, and that completes the program. So let's save the file. Let's call it Python plaintext.py. And there's the output. So you'll see that all the HTML tags have been stripped. You'll also notice that it has some interesting characteristics. For example, a link is displayed as a number in brackets. So for example, on my web page, I have a link to Pulaski Technical College. That's displayed as sub 1. I have another link, website for my courses, that's 2. Another link to my class and office hours, that's 3. And then a link to one of my books, C++ Programming Introduction, is 4. Everything else is just plain text. Notice that my picture, since it can't display graphics, just shows the alternate attribute, picture of Mike coming soon, rather than the picture itself. Let's look at the script one more time. You see that it's quite simple to take an HTML file and strip it down to plain text. So that wraps up this lesson, and now we're going to move to the next lesson where we're going to see how to retrieve only the links from a web page. And that might come in handy if we want to look at references to other things that a website links to, or there's lots of other uses for extracting links. So we're going to see how to do that in the next lesson.